Welcome, everybody, to the Sonoma Spiel. My name is Tim Zahner with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. It's a beautiful, sunny day in Sonoma. I walked around the plaza today and went to the farmer's market like I always do on a Friday. And I had a great lunch, and we're going to hear about that great lunch because I had lunch with a very special guest. I know every week I say, oh, I have a very special guest. This time I actually mean it. This is the week I have an incredibly special guest.
I'm not sure about that.
It's incredibly special. Joe D'Alessandro of San Francisco Travel. How are you doing?
Just fabulous. Great to be back here in Sonoma.
Good. I'm going to adjust your microphone 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on here. Get a little closer. How's that sound?
How about if I help?
I think we might have unplugged it. Hold on.
Is that true?
We did.
That's hilarious.
Hold on 1 second. Say something again.
Hello. Great to be back in Sonoma.
Good. You're back.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry about that. And we'll just go with that.
That's
right?
great.
Joe, in addition to being an AV tech, tell me a bit about what you're from San Francisco Travel.
Yep.
And your current title there is intern.
Yeah, intern.
Right.
President and CEO.
Okay.
Been there for 17 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you're starting to learn how it works.
I'm starting to.
Starting to get the game
I figure
down.
Another 17 years and I'll get it down.
That'll be the time.
Yeah.
And how long have you lived in San Francisco? Have you always, did you move there for the job, or you were there before that? Or?
I moved there for the job,
Okay.
and so I've been there 17 years.
Okay. Where did you come before that?
So before that, I was in Portland, Oregon. I ran the Portland, Oregon Visitor Association. And
Okay.
before that, I was the state tourism director in Oregon. But
wow.
my roots are in Northern California. I grew up in Sacramento. I started my career there with the California Office of Tourism. And my mother is a fifth-generation Sacramentan, so they settled there in 1850s and still have a large family there and had a time here in Sonoma, too.
She's one of those people that says ammons then, if she's like
She probably
deep
did say
generation.
Ammons. Yeah, because that was the almond capital of the world.
And that's like the indicator. If you grow almonds, you say ammons. If you eat them on the coast, you call them almonds.
Right.
That's the way it is. Well, I'm glad you're here because, one, we're going to talk San Francisco, we're going to talk Sonoma. And then, at the end of this podcast, you help me answer questions that we get from visitors.
Like math questions?
No, this is beauty about tourism as a fellow tourism official.
Good. I can do
Easy
that.
questions.
Yeah,
no math.
If I don't know the answer, I'll make one up.
Welcome to tourism.
Yep,
well
that's
done.
what we do.
Well done. And I had lunch with you today. That's good.
We had a really nice lunch.
That was a good spot.
It was. Very good spot.
Sat right out there, and the challenge.
Right on the plaza?
Right on the plaza. And people walking by.
Yep.
And people are like, Joe, Joe, I can't believe you're back in town. Joe, it's good to see you.
You kept paying people to say hi to you, Tim. Every time, I saw you slip a 20 whenever somebody said, hey, Tim, love Sonoma Spiel.
Don't you love that it's also, because it is a plaza, they can come back around, just change a hat and do it again.
It was the same person, actually.
It was.
They kept going around the block.
I know. So anyway, thanks a lot for doing that, Bob. That was nice of you. And I love to be recognized and do it there. Tell me what's going on in San Francisco. What's going on there?
So besides the zombie apocalypse, actually we're starting to go through this process of recovery. The pandemic hit San Francisco worse than any other city in the United States for a number of reasons. One, we shut down hard and we shut down fast, and shut down for a long time, and that really did change the way people worked in San Francisco, and we still haven't recovered. The number of people working in offices in San Francisco is the smallest percentage of any major city in the country.
Oh, really?
People still work remotely, or back in the offices on a very limited basis.
Right.
So it's a struggle that we're still, trying to deal with and trying to address. But the city is coming back. If you've been there recently, you'll see that the restaurant scene, especially in the neighborhoods. I live in North Beach, and it's more lively now than it was.
That's a great place.
Yeah. It's more lively now than it was before the pandemic. There's more restaurants that have moved in and shops and stuff like that. It's just downtown itself, the financial district. That's still struggling because there's just not enough office workers in the buildings to support all the restaurants and everything.
Well, and I want to say, Mark Twain said the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated when the supposedly obituary was written about Mark Twain. And I used to work for San Francisco Travel.
Yep.
I left because the new boss was a jerk.
No, you got fired.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
It was the worst 3 weeks of my life. Listeners, I worked for Joe when he was the new guy. And I was already planning on leaving. But when you
whatever.
Anyway. But every 10 to 15 years, national media loves that narrative, right? They love the narrative that, oh my gosh, San Francisco's done. And it comes out, I think, since I used to do the PR down there, was people really love San Francisco. some people really don't like San Francisco because there's kind of like that jealousy aspect that here's this place where you can be whoever you want to be. You're not constrained by, maybe what people told you were, or how to be who you want to be, and you can dream big. You can reinvent yourself, and some people don't like that.
Yep.
Right. And I got that narrative all the time.
Yep.
Right. And so I think like people love to pile on, but like the reality is, my son was just down in San Francisco. I'm sure he was also in school all day, but he says, Dad, the best Asian restaurants are in San Francisco. So he and his friends drive down there and they go to the avenues and they find great places to eat. Right.
Yep.
And I'm like, of course, go. It's fantastic down there. Have a good time. These are teenagers and they're having a great time down there. So
San Francisco's economy has always been this boom or bust cycle. And, you remember the .com implosion. They said San Francisco is over.
It's over.
Never going to come back from that.
Right.
And we came back stronger than we ever, had been. And coming up to 2019, we had the strongest economy of any city in the country.
Right.
And it was on fire. So a lot of people were very jealous of that. They didn't like San Francisco. Maybe they didn't like San Francisco's politics, whatever.
Right.
And they were using San Francisco as a punching bag way back then, even when things were not like they are today.
Right.
And the whole thing about San Francisco values when Nancy Pelosi became the speaker.
I remember that. Okay, did you see the SNL skit? There was a skit that came on SNL. It was the funniest thing because San Francisco values became, like everything's bad, right? Everything's gonna be terrible and blah, blah, blah. And there was a fantastic skit about how she instituted no smoking in the house. And the guy said, well, no, this is medical marijuana. She said, okay, that's fine. And it was sort of like that wink of like, making fun of yourself and that kind of, but San Francisco values was like an insult for some people, right?
And for locals, that's our values, and our values are different, and our values are unique, and they're intimidating or threatening to some people.
Right. So I think in the cycle, it's the news, and then they'll move on to something else.
I'm not worried long term. San Francisco, on the flag of the city of San Francisco, there's a phoenix rising from the ashes, and San Francisco's gone through this many, many times. Whether it was the earthquake in 1906, or we just celebrated 5 years ago the 50th anniversary of the Summer of Love. And if you were in San Francisco during the Summer of Love, you would have thought it'd been the worst thing ever because 100,000 young people from all over the country came and took drugs and had sex on the streets and lived in Golden Gate Park and and everybody was complaining about it, and now we celebrate it as in this beautiful moment in our history. So that's just San Francisco's culture and San Francisco's nature. And we do have some challenges right now, but I do believe we'll be able to address those. And we still have geographically one of the most beautiful, diverse cities on earth, and that doesn't go away. A lot of other cities have issues, and they're still ugly when their issues are done.
At the end of the day, you still wake up and insert insulting city name here.
That's exactly right. And but that's not San Francisco. San Francisco, driving up here to Sonoma today, crossing the bridge, it was incredibly beautiful.
Yeah,
and that's the key of what makes San Francisco.
And people are asking, why do I have the guy from San Francisco on the Sonoma Spiel? I mean, why have this little city of San Francisco on the mighty Sonoma Spiel, of course, but we are tied together.
Absolutely.
Right? We're part of the Bay Area, but people who come to Sonoma are often landing in San Francisco or across the Bay in Oakland, but they're definitely going to San Francisco. And it's a whole experience, right? The Northern California experience.
The way we market San Francisco is that we market not only the city of San Francisco, but we market San Francisco as the gateway to the Northern California. Yeah. So we have partnerships with you here in Sonoma. We have partnerships with Yosemite and Napa, and that's the other wine.
Napa.
That's the other wine country over that
quick,
hill.
edit that out, quick. No, those are our good friends, and
Sacramento,
they're just east of Eden.
Monterey, Carmel, because people come, when we travel, we don't just go to one geographic place.
It's the funniest thing.
And are afraid to cross that boundary.
It's so funny. If wherever you live, you become amazing, like provincial about it, and like that's where I live. So North Beach, you're like, why would I go to the Richmond? Right? That's way over there. Way over there. Then the second you go to New York, you're like, I'm going to Brooklyn. I'm going to Long Island for whatever reason. I'm going to Manhattan. You move around a lot.
It's like if you're going to the Springs and you say, I'm not going to go to Sonoma. That's too far. It's scary.
And I'm like, hey Joe, just go right past the McDonald's and then take a left on Spain Street and you're in Sonoma. Right? No, you're exactly right. And
so visitors don't see our political boundaries.
Right,
they don't know what is when you cross a city or a county line.
Right.
And they don't care.
Right.
So why should we? We should promote the whole region together because we know that Northern California together can be an incredible visitor destination.
Right. Let me ask, you're so good at this job, and I'm not just saying that because, again, the worst 3 weeks of my life being a PR manager. How did you end up getting into tourism promotion? I ask this because a lot of people don't know this is an actual job, right? So, how did you end up? What'd you do wrong, Joe? What'd your parole officer say? How'd you do this?
So, it's an interesting thing. When I was living in Italy with my family when I was 18 years old, came back and went to school there for a couple of years, and then came back and needed a job and didn't know what to do. And that was the day where you would look in the newspaper for one ads to find a job. And I noticed there was a job in a travel agency in Sacramento that focused on the Italian market, and I could speak Italian. So I said, hey, I like to travel. I like people. Maybe I should do that. Okay. So I got a job there and worked there for 5 years. And then I went to the California Office of Tourism, which is the state tourism promotional agency. And I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but I got into tourism and I love it. It's a great field because travel really opens people's minds and opens people's hearts. Yeah. And I love the fact that when people travel and experience other cultures, other cuisines, other people, they broaden their perspectives and they become a little bit more tolerant and they become a little bit better human beings in the community of the world that we're living in.
That's a great point. That's so funny. But I do love that you worked at a travel agency, like
we
legit, the kind with paper tickets and the
paper tickets. We had
early Sabre
binders to look up the fares for things, and that was like those are the old days.
Were you guys selling group tours to Italy, or was it like individual travel?
Both. Okay. We did individual and group tours. I remember you used to be able to buy a ticket on PSA from Sacramento to Burbank at the 10 p.m. flight for $19.
For real? For real. Cash, no ID.
Well, yeah.
Different times.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that you said PSA.
Yeah.
Which I think Southwest eventually, I can't remember who ate PSA. They had the smiley airplanes.
Yeah, they did.
I don't even know. I think it might have been West Coast.
Pacific Southwest Airlines.
Yeah. So maybe Southwest did buy them eventually. I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Me neither. That's great. So you never worked in a job that wasn't tourism? Did you have any high school jobs or like that? Or
I worked in my mom's ice cream parlor in Sacramento. And,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Your mom had an ice cream shop?
She did. Right downtown Sacramento.
Did she make the ice cream or she buy it?
She made the ice cream.
For real?
My brother did, actually.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite flavor?
God, that's a good question. It probably changed.
Yeah, depending on what was going on there. And
I used to have the key to that, and I remember bringing my friends from high school there once we're closed at night and feeding everybody ice cream and trying to clean up and make it look like nobody was there.
Right.
And my mom would come in the next morning and said, Joey, who did you have in here last night?
You ate the profits.
Yes,
son.
Exactly. Exactly.
For real, we have a great ice cream shop here called Sweet Scoops. I bring that up because they make like strawberries, Wawa strawberries, and chocolate. I go there and get an affogato every afternoon. I'll go after this. I love it. It's espresso ice cream. Yep. I did not know that you grew up with an ice cream shop.
Yep. I did.
Okay, that's a pretty good deal.
My family's been in the restaurant business since they immigrated to the United States from Italy.
Really?
My father's side.
And then you finally caught on and said, this is
This is too hard.
life.
It's too hard.
Instead, I'm going to defend San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. That's easy. Much easier than having the freezer go out at 2 in the morning or something like that.
Holy moly. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. And so you obviously then you're from Sacramento region.
Yep.
Okay. And then went to Oregon.
Yep.
And you wrote Portlandia.
I was starred in it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There was, I think the actual mayor from Portland was in a couple of them.
Yeah, Sam Adams, a good friend of mine.
Is his name really Sam Adams?
His name is Sam Adams, and he got a cease and desist order when he ran for mayor of Portland from Sam Adams Brewery, saying he can't use his name.
So that's fantastic. That should have been a Portlandia thing.
Yeah, it is a Portlandia thing. It's a true story too.
Did he give him their birth certificate? And
yeah,
he was like,
so
he could have sued them. Like, hey,
exactly.
Why'd you name your beer after me? What was when you're up in Oregon? What was it like up there? Was it because it's some people say Portland and Oregon is sort of like completely different than California. Some say Oregon has been ruined by Californians moving up there. Some people say Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco share kind of a common, feel for it. Was there a big difference?
I think that's true. I think in Vancouver, BC,
right.
I think all four of those cities have a very similar ethos. Yeah. They're naturally stunning, beautiful. They have similar characters. They have a similar DNA. So when I went from California up to Portland, it wasn't that big of a change. And this was in, 1991 when I moved up there. Okay. I remember I was hired by the governor because I was an appointee of the former governor.
Oh, really?
And she told me, she says, okay, I want to hire you for the job. 2 things I ask you. 1, never say Oregon, which nobody on the West Coast says Oregon. That's something from the East Coast. And she said, and do you mind removing the California license plates from your car?
Immediately.
Yeah.
There was, and that speaking of the up and down of San Francisco, there's also the up and down of Californians abroad in Oregon, Washington, and now like Idaho and Texas.
Yeah.
And like again, I've lived here long enough to see like every 15 years, they're like, "You're from California?" You're like, well, one of 8 of us are. Right? Yeah. We're a big state, so. That's funny.
And the real reason people resented Californians up in the Northwest is that we could sell our houses.
Yeah.
here and then buy a twice as big house and still take money and put it in the bank. And they were struggling to get a house in the first place. So they resented it. They were just jealous.
Well, good news is they caught up in housing prices.
Yes, exactly.
Bad news is they caught up in housing prices. So that's what's there. What's going on? Is San Francisco going to have anything major happening in the next couple of years that people can get like excited about or moderately happy about?
Yeah, there's a number of big things happening in San Francisco. And in fact, we are going to be hosting the World Cup at Levi Stadium.
Fantastic.
In 2026.
Okay.
The largest sporting event on earth. And that's really exciting. We're having a lot of plans to do that right now. And there's a really good likelihood that, in fact, some of the media is out already on it, that we'll be also hosting the Super Bowl in 2026.
Fantastic.
The NFL owners will make their decision in the next couple of days.
Okay.
And at their ownership meeting, and we're thinking it's pretty likely that we're going to get that. So just think 2 years, in 1 year, in 2026, we'll be hosting two of the largest sporting events on earth in San Francisco.
In the same area.
In the same area. And
Super Bowl, isn't it by law the 49ers have to be in the Super Bowl if it's in San Francisco? Isn't that the new rule?
I'm going to try to get that rule passed. We would love to see that happen.
Thank you.
We were hoping that was going to happen when
one
we did
thing
Super
in the
Bowl
writer
50.
I want to sneak in. Yeah, so we did Super Bowl 50.
Yep.
Which we worked. Sonoma County had a huge wine activation that was called Super Bowl Village. And what they did is they took parts of Market Street and the Ferry Building. They made this awesome activation. And if you were just into like sports or food or wine or San Francisco, it was so much fun.
Yep.
And normally they do it like in the parking lot of the stadium. And what I love is that they did it in San Francisco. And you guys did such a great job.
We'll be doing something similar to it this year, maybe not at the same site, but we are going to be doing a lot of the activation in San Francisco itself. In fact, this is a whole Bay Area thing. There'll be things in the South Bay, there'll be things in the North Bay, there'll be things in the East Bay. And that was very intentional on our part. We don't want this to be just a one city kind of thing. We want to celebrate the region. And we did that in Super Bowl 50, and we're going to be doing it in Super Bowl 60 when it comes back in 26.
I know your phone is blowing up. I know that because all the reporters are calling you saying, Joe, we want comment. We want comment. So you heard it here on the Sonoma Spiel that it might happen with Super Bowl 60 10 years after Super Bowl 50 happened. And you said the World Cup. I remember San Francisco also did the America's Cup, which was a sailing event. It seems that San Francisco is one of those cities people want to come to for spectacle and for amazing things. Is that because you're such a charming person?
That's largely what it is, but also San Francisco is one of the most aspirational destinations in the world, and we have the largest share of international visitor spend of any city in the United States.
Oh, really?
So in 2019, although international visitors made up just about a quarter of our total visitation, they spent 64% of all spending in San Francisco. So that market is really huge for us. And the reason our recovery is lagging some other cities is that Asia, and specifically China, is slow to recover. And China was our number one market before the pandemic. Europe is gangbusters. There's almost 200% more seats from SFO into Europe this summer than there was in 2019. But Asia is still slower to recover, and specifically China. We're looking for that recovery.
Looking on the plaza. The Europeans are here.
Yep,
They're
the
great.
Europeans are coming.
Not as many Chinese, but we're seeing like people from India coming actually, and which is great.
We think India is going to be one of our top markets, and just in a very short time. We've got 3 cities that serve nonstop service to SFO from India. It's a long flight, but it's great, and it's a big market for us. The Bay Area has the largest Indian American population in the United States. So and the whole tech industry draws a lot of people. It brings
a lot of people here in the South Bay, East Bay. A lot of people from India living there now. So VFR, as we call it, visiting friends and relatives, and they come up here. That's amazing. Are there any restaurants in San Francisco? No, something's new all the time.
There's a couple.
So some people don't know. San Francisco is a small, compact city, 7 miles by 7 miles on a peninsula. It's hemmed in there at the South City and San Bruno area, but within that, a lot of dynamism and neighborhoods and stuff like that. What's going on that's new? It's interesting over there.
So just on the restaurant side, we have as many 3-star Michelin restaurants as New York City does.
Oh, look at you.
So just think about that.
Take that, New York.
We're tiny.
Fred.
We're a tiny little city compared to New York. To have the same number of 3-star Michelin restaurants, the Bay Area has 60% of all Michelin stars in California.
Oh, really?
And we only have about 22% of the population, but 60% of all the Michelin stars.
So let me ask. That's an interesting tip. Is that because San Francisco is so awesome, or LA is so terrible?
No, I think it's the whole Bay Area is so awesome.
You dodged that one.
I know, I did. I totally dodged that. The whole Bay Area, we grow and produce our food and our wine and everything, and our fish and our meats and our produce all comes from a very close
here. You can
area.
literally, like you said, you drove up here. You passed the vineyards.
Yep.
I know there's duck that you pass. There's sheep, farms or ranches. So you're right. We do have the advantage of having the food right here.
And look at Sonoma County. I mean, it produces, cheese and eggs and meat and wine and fruit and all this kind of stuff, produce.
At the farmer's market today, one of the farms there, Oak Hill Farms, Jimmy is the farmer. He grows these huge pumpkins. He goes, Tim, do you want a cow? I'm like, well, I rode my bike here, first of all, no. And he goes, no, you can buy a fraction of a cow, and we're raising them for you underneath the oak trees in this grove. And he says, and you get, a quarter of a cow at the end of the day, end of the season. And
Does the cow know that?
Great life, one bad day. So I just love that you have that access to, it's not just vegetables, which you could probably get anywhere.
Right. And it's year-round.
It's year-round. Absolutely, yeah.
And, there are great restaurants in San Francisco that, they'll come up and pick the produce from the farms directly. They know the farmers. Skoma's and Fisherman's Wharf, they actually have a boat that goes out and catches
I know, is that funny?
You're
like, where does Chipino come from? It's the boat right there.
The boat right there. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Okay, San Francisco food. Chipino supposedly is from San Francisco.
Yep.
And that's a seafood stew, usually with kind of a red base and some wine, a little bit of hot pepper flakes sometimes. It's actually,
there's an Italian fish stew like that in various parts of Italy. And it's called, in the part of Italy where my family's from, Lucca, the province of Lucca, it's called caciucco. And Chipino is the San Francisco style of that. When the original Italian immigrants came here and the fishermen, they kind of used the local ingredients that were different than the ingredients in the Mediterranean and made what we call today Chipino.
They adapted it.
Yeah, it's an Italian themed thing based on local ingredients in the Bay Area.
And that like syncretic thing, like we're going to change something that we have and use it local thing. That's the story of San Francisco. The people go to Chipotle, they know the burrito there. It was actually a style of the mission burrito.
Yep.
In San Francisco, a lot of Mexicans moved up there. Mexican Americans opened restaurants, and the huge, massive burrito, you kind of go down the line, it's a steamed tortilla. It's a huge tortilla.
Massive, yeah.
Massive, and rolled up. And it's like, when you're young,
5,000 calories per burrito, but they're great.
Well, when you're young, you can eat it at once, and then like when you're older, you're like, I'm going to save this in thirds.
It's like a week's food.
Exactly, like going to die. But people got all excited about Chipotle, and the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is just a mission burrito?
Right, it's no different, right.
Like, oh, okay, I get it.
But there's a lot of things that came from the Bay Area that you don't even think about. The popsicle was originated in the Bay Area.
Really?
The martini was originated in the Bay Area.
Okay.
The Mai Tai was Trader Vic's, some of your listeners may remember that.
In Emeryville. And then the It's It, which I don't know how far outside of California that goes, but my dad loves It's It. And when he would look after the kids, that was always in the freezer.
Those are fantastic. In fact, you can go in the South City and go to the It's It store and get a whole bunch of different flavors you can't find.
Oh, really?
Yep. You can't find in grocery stores.
It's like the In-N-Out secret menu.
It's
the secret.
Exactly what it is.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Over there in South City by the Costco and by the airport and something.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep.
Oh,
exactly. So I recommend people to do that. When they're coming in from the airport, go in there, and there's flavors that you can't get anywhere else.
Really?
It's pretty cool.
Well, that's kind of neat. And then someone told me Green Goddess dressing was also from San Francisco. So it's this funny, as a culinary eating city, a lot of mishmash. Speaking of the fortune cookie, invented by a Japanese guy.
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco. I think for the World's Fair or something.
It was in Golden Gate Park.
Oh, okay.
Actually. And you know what the funny thing is? What makes San Francisco's culinary scene so unique is the people from all over the world that settled there. We have this incredible Italian culinary tradition. We have this incredible Chinese culinary tradition. We have an incredible Filipino culinary tradition. So just from a lot of different parts of the world, they brought their traditions with them, and we all get to benefit by enjoying that food from around the world.
It's not a bad life.
No, it's
That's
great.
not bad.
Yeah.
All right. I know you've got to go on to CNN here soon, or Fox, or Anderson Cooper's texting you.
Yeah, he's really anxious.
He's always doing that, and you're like,
drives me crazy.
I blocked you, Anderson. Well, here's what I got. You're going to help us do something. I know you're new to tourism, and I know you guys do have a visitor information center. Is it still at Holiday Plaza in San Francisco or wherever it is? Okay.
Yep.
So at the cable car turnaround, professional staff in San Francisco can answer your questions. They actually model everything they do off the Sonoma Plaza Visitor Center and our South Visitor Center.
That's exactly what
I hear. Like, if you want to get trained, go to Sonoma. But we run 2 visitor centers, Joe. One here at the Plaza, one at Vianza Winery. People come up and ask us questions all the time.
Yep.
And, we have a professional staff, and they answer these questions. So, are you ready for We Get Questions?
Yes, I am ready. Is there a prize at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You get to unblock Anderson Cooper.
Fantastic.
Here we go.
I can hardly wait.
Here's a question that we got just this morning, okay? And I'm going to try to possibly read it just like they said it, but maybe I don't want to make fun of Canadians. We are a group of 6 people from Alberta, Canada. We would like to go wine tasting, but don't have an appointment. Where can we do that? Yeah, that's hard.
Very good question, because a lot of people coming up here looking for wine tasting. Yeah. And so if they're at the visitor center, was this at the visitor center on the plaza?
There's another one on the plaza, yeah.
So there's many places you can go wine tasting right around the plaza without an appointment.
It was like you were in there as I was answering.
Yes.
That's a great, I said to them, if you don't have an appointment, the easiest thing to do is around the plaza because those are tasting rooms.
Yep.
And they're used to it. And oftentimes you can buy a bottle or buy a glass and do it. 6 people gets a little hard. 6 people is a lot of people, but you could buy a bottle of wine and just drink it in the park, which is not a problem. Just behave yourself.
I know you do that a lot.
Every day.
Yep. For breakfast.
Every day. That's why they call me Mad Dog Tim.
But you know, it's one of the unique experiences of being in Sonoma itself that there's all these wine tasting opportunities in a 2-minute walk of each other. So it's very easy, and you can also get lunch.
You can get lunch. And I hear there's amazing people on the sidewalk talking about how great you are.
Yes.
So the other people, I sent them way up into St. Francis Winery, though. I said, here's the deal. It's still kind of early in the day. Drive to St. Francis, which is just north of, it's about 25 minutes north of the city of Sonoma. And I said, call them on the way if you can. If not, you can walk around the vineyard and see stuff like that. Most of the small wineries up there can also take you in earlier in the day because people haven't gotten up there yet.
Yep.
Right.
And also, a lot of wineries you can book online too.
Correct.
Just get your phone and book it before you go.
Exactly.
It's always a wise idea.
Yeah. And again, what the wineries say is it also helps them prepare for you.
Yep.
Because if it's too crazy, they're not giving you the time and attention you need, and you might have good questions,
And you want to have a positive experience.
Yeah, so that's the way it is. The follow-up question was, are any of these places pretty? I said, no, they are dystopian hellholes. So...
the thing is that about that question, it's really funny because obviously we have so many beautiful wineries up here, but the places on the plaza too are exceptional. I mean, there's so many of these tasting rooms in the plaza that are really great experiences. They're in historic buildings. Yep. You're looking out on the plaza itself, and they are really pretty and really great experiences.
It was kind of funny. I even said even the places that are industrial. There are the garagistes, we call them, people who make these in industrial places. They have nice patios or they have their own version of pretty. Mm-hmm. But, just go outside of town if you want to see vineyards. You do not have to drive very far to see a vineyard. Right. And their worry was they wouldn't see a vineyard. Yeah. I said, you point the car 10 minutes.
You can't not see a vineyard when you're coming in and out of town.
If you don't see one, your eyes are closed and you shouldn't be driving. So, yeah. Okay, here's another question I got this week. I got this question literally texted to me on Tuesday. Are you ready for this? Or no, Thursday. We are camping up at Sugarloaf in a rented RV van and would like to find a good place nearby for dinner. Can you help? So Sugarloaf's up by Kenwood.
Why did it matter if it was rented or not, the RV van?
Because this is my mom, and she wanted me to know she's rented an RV van and is nearby, and she wants to find a good place. And they haven't bought one because it's been the big discussion. So I like that you clued into that. And now my mom's going to hear this question.
So there are a number of good restaurant opportunities up in Kenwood itself.
Yeah, there are.
And which is,
like Salt and Stone is a great one.
Salt and Stone is a great one. Yeah.
Tips Roadside for a little more informal. Palooza, which is kind of a different, it's like an American style, great patio and stuff. I sent them to Glen Ellen to the Mill, and the Yeti, which is the Indian restaurant in Glen Ellen at the Jack London.
And Glen Ellen's such a little charming town too, and the Glen Ellen Star.
Great spot. I say Glen Ellen Star.
And Fig Cafe.
Right, fantastic places. Yeah. So those are like your classic wine country, fabulous, amazing places.
Yep.
And then even, I've mentioned before, Les Pascal's, the French bakery up there. So it's not really dinner, but they have a really good French bakery. It's Pascal and Pascal. Pascal married to Pascal, one with the E. You can't hear it in my French pronunciation, but one's the female version, one's the male. Pascal and Pascal. Yeah. I never took French, but yeah, so.
Clearly.
So there are a lot of places, but Sugarloaf itself is up in the mountains looking down back on the valley in a great place, and they have a waterfall.
And you can go there with rented RV vans or even with ones that you might own.
You buy. But you don't have to buy one. For example, you can rent one, and you don't have all the hassle if you're considering and maybe having this conversation with your son.
Yep.
For example.
It sounds like you've had experience doing this.
Okay. While we really enjoy Sonoma, we hear that there is a nearby place called San Francisco that might have some interesting things as well. Got any recommendations for must-sees in San Fran?
Not really. I don't know San Francisco very well. If you have not been to San Francisco recently, I think one of the greatest new things that we have in the Presidio, which is the closest place in San Francisco for people from Sonoma County, is the whole tunnel tops and the new areas above the...
there's tunnels that go through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a multi-million-dollar expansion of a national park.
Okay.
And they are just beautiful. There are playgrounds, there's walkways, there's historic batteries that have been preserved that were part of the World War I sites.
Right.
And it's in a national park. It's really beautiful. You've got the Walt Disney Family Museum there.
Right.
You've got restaurants in the Presidio. And a lot of people come to San Francisco and they do things that are very familiar to themselves, but they don't maybe venture out to the Presidio. And I think the Presidio is one of the real hidden jewels of San Francisco. It's incredibly stunning. You have beautiful views of the Golden Gate Bridge that are unlike any others.
Right.
You can walk down to Crissy Field, down to the base of it. There's paths, there's walkways to go down there. It's easy. It's not as crowded as other parts of town. And it's really a stunning area. So I think if you haven't done that before, it's something that I would really recommend. I do it myself on a great weekend. I go walk around there and you just put a smile on your face. It's so incredibly beautiful.
It is gorgeous. And it is, as you said, that we have parks in San Francisco. Dolores Park is well known. Golden Gate Park are all well known, but the Presidio was a former military base that reverted back to civilian control, and they were like, "What are we going to do with it?"
Right, and it's part of the national park system.
Is it? Okay.
So if anybody wants to go to a national park, they don't have to travel any further than San Francisco.
Don't go to Yosemite.
Go to the
Hop on the 30 Stockton and take a left.
Exactly.
Do you require people to call the city San Fran? Is that still a thing, or how does that work?
So we actually, if they do that, we put a barrier on the Golden Gate Bridge and they can't get into the city.
So
we much prefer Frisco. we love people to say Frisco.
So there's a famous book by Herb Caen, who was a columnist in the newspaper. Don't call it Frisco or San Fran.
Yeah.
What do people actually call that place down there?
Well, we like to call it San Francisco.
Okay.
It's actually the name.
That's the name
of the city.
I got
It's like Sonoma.
Right.
It's a clever name.
Right.
But if anything else, people will say SF. And you don't offend locals if you say SF.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And then locals will often call it the city.
City.
I'm sure other places near cities, London, they do that. I don't know if they say in Chicago or New York.
They do it in New York.
Do they in New York? Going to the city? Yeah. Okay.
But the good thing is we say, in San Francisco, the city, in Oakland, they call it the town.
Right.
And there's a fun little bit of rivalry with that.
Back and forth there.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice, I haven't had Peter from Visit Oakland on. So,
well, that's because he's just from the town.
Although I used to live in Oakland. It's a nice place.
It is.
Joe, if people want more information about San Francisco for visitation purposes, is there a website they can go to?
Funny, we do have a website.
Oh, good.
And it's just sanfrancisco.travel.
For real?
Or you can go sftravel.com. Either one gets it. Whatever's you're going to remember easier. sftravel.com or sanfrancisco.travel. And you can get a lot of information about San Francisco. Okay. You can find upcoming events. You can get restaurant recommendation, ideas of walking tours, neighborhoods to go into, what's happening at any museum.
If I have a massive conference I want to bring up midweek in February.
Yep, you could come there and we'll be happy to host it. And then we'll send some of the smaller groups up here.
That's exactly what we want. So, Joe, I know you've got to get on the national call here in a second, so I really appreciate you stopping by. And
always happy to. I mean, love to be back in Sonoma. Lived here for more than a decade and have very special feelings for this town.
And then if you do move closer, we'll have you come in and help me with AV again.
Yeah, I can volunteer at the Visitor Information Center.
Don't even joke. I'm going to get you there because two of the volunteers, you met them. You're great. And I want to remind everybody else, if you like this podcast, subscribe. Tell everyone you love it. Please go visit San Francisco. It's a great city. I'm not saying that because I'm paid to say that because I'm not anymore. I used to work there, but now it's just a place that I love. So please come visit. And otherwise, see you at cinemavalley.com. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.